One Tree Hill fans, thanks for being here as always. If you could hit that like and subscribe button, that would be phenomenal. But either way, always glad you're here. So today we're talking about season 3, episode 15. Just watch the fireworks. After the last couple of episodes, I don't even know what to expect. I honestly can't remember. As I've said, I've watched this a couple of times all the way through. And, it's funny. Originally, I watched it on TV, week to week, month to month, year to year, season to season. And then I binged it. And it's funny, rewatching it now, it's just wild how every time you re-binge something, it hits differently and you notice things you didn't before. So that's kind of the magic of binge versus watch week to week. So let's get into just watch the fireworks. Oh man, right off the bat, we're getting a very negative, angry Nate talking about how marrying Haley was the worst thing that he's ever done. Now, I do remember this actually. It's the time capsule episode, and it's being broadcast and through the whole school, and of course Haley sees it and Nathan sees her seeing it. Oh, not great, not ideal. And of course we have Tim saying that he's dated everyone and currently dating Brooke Davis, and of course Rachel's there to give a little punch into Brooke on that one. Okay, that was funny when the teachers are like, hey, how did somebody get into the time capsule? Looks fine. And Coach Whitey pulls off this poster that's covering up the other side of the column, and there's a hole in it. Great detective work. Oh my God. I would have tried to shut down the AV room or, the broadcasting first before going to the sealed time capsule. But of course, somebody broke a key off in the lock, so it's stuck and they can't get in. But honestly, their janitor should have been able to use. I've seen my maintenance at my old apartment scarily get into my apartment by using a drill to pop the lock off. But I do think it's funny that Whitey's like, I'll call a locksmith, but you better call a SWAT team because this could get ugly. Oh, truer words have never been spoken. And I forgot that Lucas was talking about how getting closer to Dan and bringing him down for good to set the people he loves free is on the time capsule. Okay, but seriously, why is Nathan shaking his head at that? Nathan, at this point in your life, you hate your dad too. Why aren't you agreeing with Lucas? I don't know. Oh my God, I always forget that Brooke's like, yeah, I'll probably be married to someone like Mouth McFadden or Senator McFadden. And then she starts to take off her clothes. Oh my God. Leave it to Whitey to save the day. Nobody can get into the AV room. Brooke is freaking out, and Whitey goes to the main power control of the school and cuts it off. Thank God. Right before as she's taking her bra off on the TV. Oh my God. Oh, then the generator kicks on. Crap. Oh, geez. I forgot about Jimmy's, very spilling the tea type revelations on his time capsule moment. Oh, my God. Woo. Okay. See, this episode, I forgot, builds the backstory for the episode that will be coming up. That's honestly one of my least favorite episodes with Jimmy. Just period, not because of Jimmy. But yeah, I forgot about everything that he said on this time capsule. Ugh, really, calling out the jocks, calling out the perfect people. Ooh, not that there isn't a lot of people in high schools that probably want to do that, but yeah, it was intense. Okay, I totally forgot about whoever unleashed the time capsule, also put it on the internet. Oh my God. Poor Brooke, poor everybody. Ooh, how did Mouth know about the senator comment from Brooke? I forgot Lucas also said some really nice things about Haley, which was good because Nathan said a lot of really crappy things. Of course, Lucas told Brooke she was beautiful on that awful time capsule. Keith and Karen are like, hey, Lucas, we're going to get married. And I love that they told him in front of Haley, and they're all so happy. And then here comes the time capsule still playing with Nathan going, never get married. well they worked that out, Nathan and Haley. Just like, hey, like, just out there, just boom. Okay, moving on to the next problem. Ooh, Brooke's got the scent. She's on to mouth. I think it's good you're gonna run for senator, since most politicians are liars. Lucas and Keith's heartfelt moment Keith fixing the garbage disposal. And, Lucas was trying to, it's clear that Jimmy is really weighing on Lucas's heart. And then, like, he was like, hey, I want to adopt you. I want you to be my son. How sweet is that? Well, leave it to Brooke to take lemons and make lemonade, using her topless moment to make posters for the breast awareness concert that Peyton is throwing. I did like that. Yeah, now the whole town will see my boobs. Now my mom and I have something in common. When Dan asks Keith to get into the car, let's go for a drive, that's an equivalent of a stranger trying to kidnap someone. Gives a very creepy vibe. And locking the doors. Like, what is that, Dan? Wait, did I say Keith asked Dan? Because I meant Dan asked Keith to get into the car. My brain is mush. Like, we never really heard about Jimmy until now. And it's weird because also Mouth, like, we find out later, created the not the time capsule, his podcast show that he does for the basketball team with Jimmy, but we don't find that out till later. So it's this is one of those like writer devices to like, build another story later. It's so wild how little Keith was always protecting little Danny, and then Danny grew up and he became the biggest bully of them all, which is ironic because he's like, oh, Keith, you used to beat up the bullies for me. And then Keith called it. He's like, yeah, and then you became bigger than all of us, right, Danny? Totally called that when Dan's like, what do you think makes brothers become enemies? And I go, you? Right before Keith said it. Boom. Dan just really wanted to believe that Keith killed him. Like, he became obsessed with that idea. And then him handing back the ledger and being like, oh, I guess you really did kill me. Look, you have the ledger. It's like, dude, the ledger incriminates you. So, like, what are you going to do? Like, because, like, you can't show the ledger. I mean, Keith is right. He can't show the ledger without taking himself down, too. So it's like, and it's an interesting moment on that bridge because you really see the vulnerability of Dan's character in this moment. And that's what I think really connects Dan to wanting to believe that Keith killed him or tried to kill him, because he just has all the hate. Like he said, you have so much hate and you just can't, you need to let it go. Oh my God, I love that. Brooke sees Karen's ring. Oh my God, get out. And Karen's like, it's my club. And Brooke wanting to meet Karen's wedding dress. How sweet. Karen's all, it has to be more than what you were wearing on the poster and no feathers. Okay, Nathan bringing Haley the purple flowers from their wedding. I love it. And that's the way it should have been when she went on tour originally, but it's so cute that he's here for her. And I do like that he's like, maybe we should find out what the name of those flowers are and get some seeds, because at the rate I'm screwing up, there won't be any left to pick. I love it. Aw, Nathan says, you have nothing to worry about, Haley. And then when he leaves, she looks at the flowers sad, and she's like, except us. I forgot about the product placement, Sunkissed. Ooh, Mouth and Brooke's conversation was a little tense, but she made some good points. I mean, why did he have to watch it? And maybe he's not the guy she thought he'd be in 20 years. Of course, the jocks had to be typical jocks and try to start beating the hell out of Jimmy. And then here comes, here comes Rachel macing people, and then Lucas, and then he gets caught up, and Nathan gets in it. I totally forgot about that. I totally forgot about the little flirtation with Pete from Fall Out Boy to Peyton. Of course, Brooke can spot someone hitting on Peyton from a mile away. That whole interaction was cute. Is he going to check you for lumps? What? He's a musician. I'm sure he's got good hands. Of course, Rachel's like, oh, well, I didn't really mace him because of you. I just wanted to pepper spray someone. And I appreciate that Lucas and Nathan can have that moment. And Nathan is like, we're cool, man. Finally. But he does have a point, Nathan. Do you think we could ever have a function in this town that doesn't end in a brawl? Oh my God, that was cute. Haley and Nathan's next conversation. I just love that. He's like, "What are you doing? Don't you have any pre-game rituals?" And she's like, "I just don't want you to see me loving it again and make you think that I love you less." And he's like, "Don't be afraid to love it." And he swats her on the bottom, pre-game ritual. But I do like when the chick comes in and she says Miss Scott and Haley corrects her. It's Mrs. Scott. Ah! Oh my God. Enjoying Haley's song. Here comes this guy talking to Nathan. Your husband, right? It's a shame she's not touring. She's really talented. She must really love you. Like he needs more things to doubt. It's kind of funny. Karen is so involved in Keith, and then Lucas is like, "Hey, Lucas, and hey, Keith, Mom, can I talk to you?" And the way Karen looks up at Lucas, I was like, for a minute there, I was like, it's almost like she's looking. I'm like, "Oh, right, I have a son." And then he's like, "Mom and Dad." Oh my God, so sweet, but it's so foreshadowing. Okay, I'm conflicted about the conversation that Mouth and Rachel had because on one hand, it's very cynical, jaded, and it's very unfeeling. But then on the other hand, she's not entirely wrong. We are kind of all on our own. Seeing Haley and Nathan's next conversation when he's like, "I'm scared to be vulnerable." And it's just like, she's like, "Hey, just promise me you'll be here when I get back." It's like, see that right there. Goals, people. Okay, I got a little teary-eyed with Whitey's ending monologue there about, don't be bitter, let go of the past, go for it, and sometimes the things that scare you the most are the most rewarding. And in the darkest of night is when you see the stars, and the stars will bring you home. It's like, oh my God, Whitey, I love you so much. Like, this man, he's just everything. But those are my thoughts on this episode. I know there was a lot in this episode to cover, so thanks for hanging in there with me. Now let's talk about the podcast. Okay, so I just listened to the podcast, and I have my notes. So it's funny because I thought the column that held the time capsule also looked like paper, so I'm kind of glad they clarified that. Do you think it was funny that they pointed out how their high school didn't really have other grades and, have those kind of adversaries, the higher grades, like bothering them? But I kind of think maybe it's because, well, A, it was probably a budget thing. And B, it was probably because they made enough of their own drama. But I do admit the timeline is a little wonky, but I think that's the case in every TV show. Haley did not really drive until she became a mom, I feel like. I just remember her driving after she had Jamie. That's what I remember. And it's very true. When you're younger, the time seems like it just passes like molasses. It's so slow. But let me tell you, when the years pass, things speed up exponentially. It's true. High school is your world. When you're a kid, your world is very small, usually for most people. So kids are very narcissistic and self-centered. And I will say that it is also true that everyone is usually the bad guy in at least one person's story. And I do think Jimmy's story does illustrate that point. I've always heard that the brain is not fully developed until 26. Makes you think, doesn't it? And yes, there is both a burden and a blessing when it comes to social media. You can definitely find a community, but with the good comes the bad, and you must be safe. Make wise decisions. I think Jimmy's story also points out that is a very common theme in a lot of high schoolers, but on the flip, I think that Rachel really did have a good point to Mouth about, there's a reason you stopped hanging out with him. And that does happen primarily more so in high school because people are changing, groups are changing, ideals are changing. Your world is becoming, survey says, larger. And, back then we didn't have social media. So it does once again illustrate that Jimmy did not have that community or support. Can definitely agree that Brooke absolutely took the power back on the braless time capsule moment. And I have to give her props for giving that boss move on the granny bra. And ew to the Polaroids of them being half naked. I mean, that's like creepy, it's gross, it's disturbing as hell. And you know, the email hacks, oh my god, so scary. Those are always scary, I swear. And then bravo once again to Sophia for doing the later Hosen trolling the pervert story. That was great. Hillary getting hacked and putting her new at the time relationship with her current husband now in jeopardy is just really scary. And poor Joy having her sonogram, you know, being leaked. That was just really, that is a violation. Absolutely. Yes, there are worse things that happen, but it's still a violation. And it's so cool that guys like the show and the Armed Forces Network. That was a really cool story from Sophia. You know, I was kind of wondering in that fight at the backstage at Trick, where did those guys come from? They did not look like high schoolers. I was wondering the same thing. And Sophia's pepper spray story was really funny, but I have to say, I think Joy's takes the cake. That was a little bit worse. Rachel telling Jimmy that she wasn't protecting him was a very high school response, in my opinion. But maybe if she had let him think that she was trying to protect him, it might have made a difference. Maybe. Okay, I'm just going to step up for the 80s movies. Yes, they don't age well, but they are not for today's audience, let's be real. But let's just appreciate it for the time capsule that it is, because there's some good stuff in there too. And you know what? Teens are just damaging in general. I think that teens, we all sucked as teens. I just feel like that's such a crazy time in life. I think we did get a little bit of Rachel's backstory, and we saw more of her insecurity in this episode because no one was really hanging out with her or paying attention to her. So we saw that vulnerability in that moment. The music was definitely good in this episode, and Joy rocked it. But watching yourself can be cringy. I get that. I really do have to agree that Joy vocalizing her fears and being very specific about her fear in this episode, I think that's a fear that a lot of women have, and it's a good point that Hillary made. Like, you know, Haley and Nathan, she and him, they both learn to be vulnerable with each other, and that's really hard to do, especially after everything they dealt with together. Their vulnerability and honesty is a really good blueprint for couples in real life, in my opinion. Another good illustration with the Jimmy situation and the whole storyline is like I believe it was Sophia who said, whose responsibility is it in a friendship to reach out? And well, I think it's both responsible. I think, you know, there's give and take in every relationship. But it is kind of hard to know how far to go sometimes, especially now in this whole, well, if they're not calling you and they're not inviting you, which is true. Like, you shouldn't chase people for a friendship. But it's like communication is so, it breaks down walls, and it helps things so much in a lot of ways, and we just don't essentially do it. So it's really a catch-22, because it's like, oh, communication, yes, so important, but then we have our own issues that kind of stop us all from doing it, which it's just crazy. It's wild that Hillary had to kiss Pete from Fall Out Boy, who was currently dating her friend Ashley Simpson at the time. Awkward indeed. Whitey always had some pretty good lines, I feel like. So I really love that Joy picked one of his lines from this episode as a kind of wedding vow in her choice. Okay, the fist pumps at Sophia's wedding, that was just really cute. And Hillary's kid never going on a roller coaster, and she's like, we're going to go and make some bad choices. I love it. Yes, I could totally see Antoine Skills, like, losing his cool on a coaster. It would be hilarious. It would be entertaining, I think. And I have seen those videos of people passing out on coasters. I don't know, I kind of feel bad for them, but I'm not a coaster fan, so that might just be me talking. But that was this episode. I know this was a longer video, but like I said, there was a lot to cover. There's a lot going on. So I hope you enjoyed. If you did, feel free to like and subscribe. I'll see you next week.